Today we will start or restart Vimalakirti Sutra. Last time, when we had Vimalakirti Sutra, it was on December 11th last year, and then we had 2 months or over 2 months of break. At that time, I think I said we are probably going to resume our class around end of March or beginning of April, and with the blessings of 3 jewels. I am grateful that we still have this opportunity to continue to study this sutra, and I think we should all appreciate such opportunity of studying this sutra because life is impermanent, everything is impermanent, everything changes so fast. So today we'll continue on the Vimalakirti Sutra. Before the actual class, I would like to mention 2 things before class. The first thing is in South Africa. In South Africa, there's currently cyclones in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Malawi. Around that area, the countries are extremely poor. Last year, I went there and also went to Africa before as well. Even before any devastating disasters, their lives are quite difficult already. But now, after such disasters, over 700 people died and over 10,000 of people disappeared. People are constantly only caring about the messages such as the Russia Gates and about New Zealand, all of those news from developed countries. But as we're in this world, I think people who live in this world, the way we pay attention to media, I think it's quite biased. Last night, when I saw some photos from the disaster striking areas, I was really saddened. I was so heartbroken, but I really couldn't do much. For people over here, I think if you have different methods to pay attention and help out and try your best, because people over there, they're such poor sentient beings. The houses over there are made of mud and soil. So after the cyclone, all the houses are destroyed and moved flat to the ground. So over there, people are suffering a lot. Therefore, I really hope people could really help out with all the help that you could provide, even if it's just a little bit, through your aspiration or through your actions, because the sentient beings really need it. And today I call upon all of you to chant the Mani, the 6-syllabus mantra of Avalokiteshvara. And over here, we recently having a few new books. In 2018, every day I would post some teachings from Tibetan language and translated into Chinese. And I would post it every single day. So now this little booklet is published. This is called 365 Diamonds. Hopefully this year I'll continue. And the university talks are also published in Chinese language as well. Now we have the books, the newer versions of the university talks transcripts published all the way from the volume 20 something to volume 37. So I really feel lots of gratitude towards people who worked out to help and put them into words and publish it. At the beginning, well, of course, I hope this helps. At the beginning, all my inspiration is to publish it and to spread the message so that it could help others. Some of this aspiration is quite well thought out process. So I'm quite grateful for those people who worked on this project of making this published. So now I'm going to give the Vimalakirti's oral transmission on the part where we're going to learn today. So I'm probably going to use about 10 minutes or so. Maybe less than that, because we don't have that much today, and then we'll continue the teaching.
Drua ma yimban druwi tse shanchu sanhwa santi ji chur namlan druwar songwa yenur meba shanchu sanhwa druwa ma yimban druwa gang meba gang tse msammer ngi druwa yang no tsim dang nambar tsewa dang raptar dangwar mandyo ro semchin nyarwin druwar yang druwa yang nyomong bir dar tamcha dang charwa yen dundru druwar yang alembi mamba mannag dang charwa yen Lama yin den zhuwa yang, ngarjir dang, jagba dang, chagba me pa yin, xinjin jikten den zhuwa yang, sonum dang ishi ji tsuk tamchir langwa yin, mgyo wa dang zik me pin zhuwa yang, di yin zhuwa la yang dagbarin jikba ma yin no, do chik ji zhuwa yang, do pipsho pa tamchir la, do chik dang charwa yin, jirdang gan zhuwa yang, semchan tamchir la kung chuwa me pa yin, xtamik gan zhuwa yang, chu tamchir shirib, Nibir tokba semdang damba yin, sernin zhuwa yang, li dang zhugu martawe, shinang ngubo yongsuk tongwa yin, tsirnchir di zhuwa yang, kana matuwa zhongzid yang, jigbir tawa dang, vijangwi yondan dang, yongshin hyungwa tamchir lang nipa yin, nosim di tawa dang, kongchun zhuwa yang, shindog nosim mepa, fyamba lang nipa yin, lelu zhuwa yang, zonji zom yinma chapa, Givi tsawa tamchi yongsun tsore na tsomba yin, wangbo chirwin zhuwa yang, ramjin di nyombar zhigi xiang, sangtun yopa yin, sangtun tun yopa yin, charwi shirib di zhuwa yang, shirib di parurdu shimbi zhuwa song zhang, jiktin badang, jiktin lin dibi, tamju tamchi lam keba yin, tsirnchir dang kaksak shepi zhuwa yang, dimbu ngagdam kejang, dimbu ngaglam kejang, tamke bib shopa, tsarp chimba yang yino ngargir ji nzhuwa yang ton lan jiktin ji zamba dang rtagvar jirwa yang yino nyomong bi nzhuwa yang shind gunni nyomong ba mechang rangjin ji yongsa tagba yin udit ji nzhuwa yang sanji ji chu tamcha lag zhan ji chang manjokba yin nyantu ji nzhuwa yang semchin la matu bi chu tubar sheba yin Rangir jin zhuwa yang, semchin tamchid yongsir membir shawi shir, nyangji chenpo le shungwa yin. Ghurwu zhuwa yang, zhuwa longshud zab mishibi rinpoche lagna togba yang yin. wongbo nyambin zhuwa yang zi zang zhang canji lakbar gyamba yin rignan de jewi zhuwa yang zhuwa sunum dang ishi ji tsok sabi devzhig shigbi shke dong rab de jeba yin nyam chong zhang mdok ngamba jambin zhuwa yang stana digba dang chibme ji wi li tawa toba yin semchen tamchit nawa dang mabdewi shoba gang Stone lan chewin jigbali shind ndezang rapt chumbayang yinu.
So we will continue on the teachings of Vimalakirti Sutra. Not sure if I will be able to finish teaching this this year, so we'll see. But now we've finished about over half of it, hopefully, and making the aspiration, wish that every one of you will continue and finish learning of the Vimalakirti Sutra. I think I made a mistake. Well, I meant to say that to continue to finish the learning of this sutra. I think majority of people really put lots of attention into listening and studying this Vimalakirti Sutra. I think it's quite important to not only starting a project or a course, but also finishing it and finish it well. You should have patience, have a sense of stability, have a sense of perseverance. Don't just give up halfway through. Don't just change halfway through and then everything didn't end up well. Don't give up halfway because this is not really good. Well, this is falling apart. Don't move, okay? Therefore, this particular teaching, I really hope all of you start well and finish it well and persevere all the way throughout this whole teaching. I myself, as a Mahayana practitioner who listens to the Buddha's teaching, I think what's the most important is to not change in between. I know many of you don't intend to stop halfway through, but sometimes it's because of all the things that happens in your life. There's so many chores and so many things that's happening in your life, and so many uncertainties. There are so many things happening. Therefore, you had to miss one or two classes, and it happens. This kind of uncertainty, I myself was contemplating it during the time when we had the holidays between December till now. When we had the holiday around that time, I was thinking this kind of uncertainty, there's so many causes could contribute to that uncertainty that we may not have the condition to have the class again, but it's wonderful that we are restarting this class again anyhow. So this is very rare, and we should cherish such opportunity of being able to listen to this particular sutra again, especially considering this is such a precious Mahayana text. On top of that, on top of knowing that it's something that is precious, we should have a joyful mind, a heart of happiness to listen to this particular sutra. There's a sutra, the name is the sutra taught by the Buddha and Nirgrantha, where it says that just as one just as on night clouded with darkness, a light is kindled, and all is clearly shown. Likewise, for beings chained in the darkness of samsara, only the light of wisdom can get them through. The wisdom of listening, contemplating, and practice, only once you have those kind of wisdom, you can get through samsara and get to the other shore. So each one of you should know that there are thousands and tens of thousands of goals, of things that you look for, that you want to gain in samsara, but only the Dharma, only the wisdom from the Dharma could get you through samsara and go to the other shore of liberation, and it could only give you, and only the Dharma could give you the light of wisdom in the darkness. So I was thinking, for so many celebrities and famous people around the world, yes, they're envious. People tend to be envious towards them. But without such wisdom from the Buddha Dharma, they may not be able to resolve their own problems, their own afflictions. Despite that, in different areas, they may be quite successful and famous. But with Dharma, even if it's just by one stanza, by practicing this one stanza, you can eliminate all of your afflictions. It could solve your problems. So from this aspect, I hope that you could really put some thoughts into it. So let's continue with the Vimalakirti Sutra. In the previous classes, we've already learned about the chapters on the sentient beings, and Vimalakirti was conversing with this goddess, and they were talking about how people's practice are and how to transform affliction into practice. So now we move to the chapter 8, where before this chapter, everything was on how to help the sentient beings who are still suffering. And then from this chapter and this chapter onwards, it talks about how to attain Buddhahood. In this chapter, it talks about the Buddhahood, the family of Tathagatas, and the retinues of Tathagatas. So the three aspects. And then the path of Buddhahood talks about practice, and family of Tathagatas talks about the Tathagata Garbha, or the Buddha nature, and then talks about the followers or the disciples or the family members of Tathagatas or Buddhas. So as ascension beings, if you were wanting to attain Buddhahood, you have to have skillful means and wisdom. And such skillful means and wisdom could become the cause and conditions to attain such Buddhahood, the fruition. If you don't have such skillful means and wisdom, then even though it may seem like you're practicing virtuous deeds, but it could still become the path to Marahood rather than Buddhahood. As Master Jizang stated that if you have skillful means and wisdom, then if it's acceptable path or the right path and the wrong path, it's all path towards Buddhahood. Otherwise, it is not. And then he quoted a sutra that's called Contemplating on the Benefits, where it says that if you have wisdom, then with whatever, if you have wisdom and skillful means, then whatever path you tread on, it could become the path towards Buddhahood. But if not, then even if you may appear to be reciting mantras and reading sutras and practicing, it is still not the path towards Buddhahood. Therefore,
不要这个心思散乱。
I really hope
心在
that
散
you
乱当
could
中听说的话，那也许可能
pay
不能
attention
就得
to
到就是
listening
传
the
承也好，
class
就是它的
and
真
try
正
not to
的这
be
个
distracted
意义。因为我
because
们
if you were
心散乱，其
distracted
实心专注的
then
时候，有时
you
候
cannot
神圣的
understand
话
what this
佛法
class is
的
about
很难以
because even
这
if you're
个
really
能接受
concentrated
的话，那
if
那
you're
散乱
very
的心根本不
focused
做的。
your
所以呢，我们每一个人
the
呢，就是
sutra
在
is
听
so
书的这个短
profound
短的一个多
and
小时
very
当中的
difficult to
话呢，
understand
你一定
already
要
don't
用
even
你的
mention if
所
you
有
were
的这种智
distracted
慧，用你
so
的
you
所有
should
的
try
这
to
种
use all your
这个心
wisdom
思来，
you
就是
should
专
try
心
to
致志的
focus
有
all of your
非常
attention
认真的然后
be
接受这
very
个获
much
得神圣的道
attentive
理。那
and
这样的
receive
话呢，
the
确实这
teaching
里面
from
呢
the
就是
Buddha
有特别好的这个教义啊，
So
特别好的
that's
教义。
the
所以
very
我们要
important
学习的话
aspect
呢，应该
of
学的深一点，
listening
学的踏实一点，
of
学的真正的这个
the
实
Buddha
实在在
Dharma.
的，就是让你自己
When
的
you
心
are
来有所
listening
这
the
个收
Buddha
获。
Dharma,
这样的话呢，
you
你实实
should
在在的就是
be
能改
very
变别人
grounded
的这种
and
相续。否
pay
则呢，
lots
你
of
在学的
attention
过程当
and
中呢，
listen to the
也是
Dharma
什
so
么这
that
个马
you
马虎
will
虎的，
receive
然后这
the
个思维的
maximum
时
of
候呢，也是
benefit
迷迷
for
糊糊的。
yourself.
最后那个
Otherwise,
修行
if
的
you
时
were
候呢，
just
就是更是
staying
这
here
个
very distracted
就
while listening,
就
if you
可
were
能就是就比
if
较这个
during
就
listening
很
you
当
are
中就是这样这个过
drowsy
就最后的
and
话
your
呢，
whole
那
life
这个
would
利益众
pass
生的话呢，更看不出
without
什么的。就所以
being able to
就
benefit all
这个
sentient
今天的这
beings.
一品呢，就是实际上是很
You
重要
can't
的。
even
就
benefit
这
yourself,
一品
really.
不真
So
正能动
in
到的
this
话呢，我
chapter,
们密宗里面就是很深深的见解，深深的
it
信闻，
contains
深深的
the
这个
profound
修行呢，就是也容易
view,
通达
the
这里面的其实这个
the
有些教义
secretive
呢，就是应该说
teachings
是
that's
在密宗当中也是
contained in
没有
Vajrayana
更
teachings.
多的，
Once you
尤其是我
understand
们
this
大圆满
chapter,
当
you
中
will
的
be
话，可
able
能
to
更多的一些
easily
这是心
accept
性
the
感化，就是除
teachings
此之
from
外呢，一
Vajrayana.
般公统密宗和
in
马哈尤嘎的
the
什么无
common
生瑜伽
Vajrayana
的
as well
这
as
个
Mahayoga
这个
and
密宗当中的话呢，
all
的
of
确
these
也是做这样的
different
非常这个相同。
different
所以我想
categories.
有些
I
人呢，我
think
们这
lots
个
of the
以
view
前
are
是一
quite
直是学
similar
仙
with
宗的，
this
那
particular
么对
chapter.
密法呢，
I
就
know
是可
many
能
of
有些
you
是就
started
是一知
off
半
with
解，有些的话
exoteric
呢就是一窍
studies
不
with the
通，有些的话呢
Sutrayana
就是可
studies.
能
Maybe
就是
none
这是
of, maybe
大
some
概
of
的
you
这个
had
了
never
解一下，
even
但实际上
studied
呢，的确
Vajrayana
是这个佛陀所宣说的
and
这
maybe
些
had
所有
some
的干部妙
doubts
法呢，
about
都是
whether
一
the
为一
Vajrayana
只不过我们众
is
生呢就是学着
legitimate at all.
片面的，
However,
我们只能这个一个
you
维度来这个
have
观察的话
to
呢，就是
be
其实是
really
这个佛法
open-hearted
真
because
正的
all
神
the
圣当中
Dharma is
并没有
one.
完全
It is
通达
not
因此
separated. Therefore, you should be open-hearted
今
and
天呢
try
就
to
是我
see
们
the
在
Dharma
这
from
里
different
讲到
dimensions.
这个佛大品啊，就是八品的时
Now,
候呢，就是也更加这
We
个
are
专注，
entering
因为今天是
into
第一节课，我也
the
相信
chapter
也是
of
比
the
较
path
专
of
注的。
Buddhahood. Therefore,
就第一
be
节课
really
呢，就是大家
attentive.
都是很
Usually, on
很
the
认
first
真的，
class,
人也
people
来
tend
的
to
也
be
多一
very
点，就是
attentive
然后
and very much
就第一
focused.
节课和那
The
个最后一
first
节课
class
呢，就
and
是
the
我们
last class
很多人都觉得比较
usually
感兴趣的，
is
因为
the
第一
most
节课呢就是有
attended
新鲜感，
because
最
on
后
the
一
first
节课
class
呢
you
可能
have
有
this
成功感，
beginner's mind, and then on the last class you have the successful mind. 对吧？ Isn't that right? Successful mind is in successfully finishing the class.
下面我们继
So
续
now
讲
let's continue.
在这个时候呢，就是文殊菩萨
At
问
that time,
这个
Manjushri
文殊
then
姐姐
asked
这个
Vimalakirti,
菩萨呢
how
就是
should
云何
the
通达这个
Bodhisattva
佛道
penetrate the
啊
path of Buddhahood?
作为这个菩萨的
So
话
as a
呢，就是那么这
bodhisattva,
个怎么
how
样
do
这个
you
才能通达这个佛的这个道啊？就是修行
completely
这个
and
道
truly
啊
understand
就
the
是
path
这
of
个修行的
Buddhahood?
道呢，就是通过什么样的方式
And
来就是
what
完全
is the
这个
method
通达？
of completely
那么这个
penetrating
时候
into
呢
the，path of
这个
Buddhahood?
文末居士呢，
So
就是
Vimalakirti
回答
then
啊，就是说
answered
如果
as
菩萨
such,
呢，就是
and he said,
心
if a
非
bodhisattva
常是通
traversed
达
the
佛法，
unacceptable
这个是
path
跟我
or
们
the
平
wrong
时的
path,
这个规
this
律呢
is
就有
to
点大
penetrate
不
the
同
path
了。
of
就是我们平时的话呢，
of
佛道
Buddhahood.
是什么呢？就是
This
佛道
is quite
就是
different
正
than
道
what
就是
we
六度
usually
完形
understand,
法
isn't
不
it?
即性
We
这
usually
样的
understand
它
how
是这个大
the
乘法
Buddhahood is
如果是
tread or traversed by the practice of 6 paramitas rather than the wrong path. We usually talk about to practice the path of Buddhahood, it is to practice the 4 Noble Truths, the 12 interdependence, and so on. But over here, it talks about the unacceptable path. Is quite different than how we usually understand it. almost everybody around the world would consider that Buddhism or the common humanity would agree that to tread on the right path is the correct way to do to enter the Buddhahood, isn't it? Especially in Theravada tradition. Most people would consider if this person follows the Theravada discipline, if this person studies the Theravada tradition, then that practitioner is considered to be as a legitimate practitioner, a legitimate Buddhist. But over here, once we break such rule, break such bias and stereotype, then it seems like we're then talking about a wrong path or wrong practice. In fact, this is to break your stereotype of what is correct and what is not. As a Buddhist, if you consider that following every conduct very properly is a good monastic, when we see some novice, they probably just got ordained very early, just a very little while ago, and then they would eat very slowly, they would walk slowly, all of their conduct, all of their actions are very much follow very much properly. And if the novice see there's an old practitioner over there or an old monastic over there shouting and talking out loud, and if a person doesn't really get up early and practice in the morning, they would judge others and say that don't speak out loud and why don't you practice in the early morning? Okay, I should stop explaining it too widely, otherwise I won't have enough time to finish this. So over here he talks about Vimalakirti replied in this way to Manjushri. What is a wrong path? Wrong path such as the greed, anger, ignorance, jealousy, and doubts. Those 3 or 5 poisons. Those are usually considered to be the wrong path of practice, the wrong path of Buddhism. So as Sutrayana practitioners, they don't consider those poisons as the path of Buddhahood. As stated in the treatise on great perfection of wisdom, it says that desire is the path of Buddhahood, and so are anger and ignorance. In these 3 destructive emotions exist untold paths of Buddhahood. So these 3 normally are taught to be the ones that should be abandoned, because those are the root of afflictions, the root of all the wrongdoings, unvirtuous deeds. But as Mahayana practitioners, you should practice within the 3 poisons, because it conceals the treasure for you to practice towards the Buddhahood. Because once you see the nature of all the 3 poisons, if they are not so terrifying anymore. When you're studying Sutrayana, when you started off with Sutrayana, you see the 3 poisons as enemies. But once you receive peace instructions from Vajrayana, you would see that these 3 poisons are no longer terrifying. They could be the helping companions towards your enlightenment. Therefore, the wrong path is the path of Buddhahood. Therefore, I hope all of our audience over here, when you're practicing the Buddhahood or practicing the path towards Buddhahood, you could open up your heart and mind and open up the way you think. Just basically think outside of the box because there are different methods. Or the method that you used to know is one method, yes, but there is another method of practice. And you should know how other people view this and know the profound meaning behind it. And then you should be able to guide the other sentient beings who don't know this supreme method yet to attain enlightenment through skillful means.
那接下来呢，就是这个说这个什么就是佛道呢，就是说是这个废道啊，这就是废道。那这里有继续这个文殊菩萨呢，继续问的问题是
continue to ask, how does the Bodhisattva traverse the unacceptable path? If the path of Buddhahood is the wrong path, then how could you practice towards Buddhahood then? How could a Bodhisattva traverse the wrong path then? The Vimalakirti answered, around here, this passage talks about how mundane beings, the sage beings, the birth and death realm, and there are different layers, so we'll continue to analyze this. The first one is talking about the path of mundane beings. The path of mundane beings, it talks about the beings of 6 realms. The first one it talks about is the realm of desire, where it talks about for human beings, rather the realm of human beings. It talks about the Bodhisattva practice the 5 deeds of interminable retribution without being distraught. Killing father, killing mother. Bleed the Buddha's body, create disharmony inside a previous harmonious Sangha.
那这个如果没有这个嗔恨心的话，那一般是这个说不过去的，对吧？
Once you've done those 5 horrible deeds, how could you say that you don't have any anger while practicing all those unvirtuous deeds? In fact, it may seem like the person, the Bodhisattva, conducted these 5 deeds, but they did not practice this with anger, or they did not practice at all. Within Ajatasattra Sutra, it has a story included where Manjushri saw a person who killed his own mother, and the person was in deep depression at that time. He was really sad, and then Manjushri manifested as a person and manifested to the 2 parents of that person, and then there was an argument broke out, and this person who killed his mother saw with his own eyes the person who is manifested by Manjushri, as well as the 2 parents. In fact, the 2 parents who are the manifestation of Manjushri as well were killed by the person who was also a manifestation of Manjushri. By witnessing this, he was shocked, and the person who killed both of the parents then went to the Buddha and repent, as well as study the Dharma, and then attend arhathood. By witnessing this, this, the person who actually killed his mother thought to himself that he still have an opportunity. Therefore, he also did the same, went to the Buddha, studied the Dharma, and then later on he also attained arhathood. So from this story, we see that maybe some people appear as conducting the 5 deeds, but they could be just the manifestations of a bodhisattva. They may appear to be extremely angry, have lots of aggression, but they're no other than the manifestation. As a manifestation, they are showing people they still have hope of attaining Buddhahood and attaining liberation, even after having done something really horrible before, by repenting, by practicing the correct path. So that's the first one. And the second one is he goes to the hells without the defilements of transgression. Some bodhisattvas may appear to suffer within the 18 realms of hells, just as Devadatta, where he appears to be this person that is completely outrageous and someone who is who had done so many misdeeds before, but when he got reborn in hell realm, he actually didn't suffer. He actually had the feeling of joy and happiness. So lots of bodhisattvas, they may appear and manifest in some way, but they're just a manifestation and not really suffering. And among the animals, without errors of ignorance, conceit, and so on. Some, they may appear to be really stupid because the animals are symbols of stupidity, isn't it? But in some ways, they appear in the form of animals to benefit sentient beings, just as when we told the story of the 4 harmonious animals or 4 auspicious animals. I think I also told a story before where a king really liked his chariots, where on it has this leather rope. And then this dog came and threw this rope. The king was really upset. And then the king was going to order to kill all the dogs in the kingdom. And then a bodhisattva appears in the form of an animal and then spoke to the king with human language. And it says that, well, why do you kill all the dogs in the kingdom when it's just a mistake made by one dog? And then the king said, because I have lots of... because I really like my chariot, and this dog really made me upset. Therefore, I'm going to kill all the dogs so that I'll protect all my chariot. And then the king said, I am the king, therefore I'm the king and I really like my chariot, therefore I have to make sure I punish the dog who threw the rope of my chariot. And then this dog asked, if there's a one person who made a mistake and become a criminal, do you kill all the people in your kingdom then as well? So the king, after long thoughts, and he made a reasonable decision of not kill all of others.
这种这个旁生，就是或者说是出生的话呢，就是他们表面上看呢，
So some of the
这
animals,
个傲慢啊等
they
等，
may
但实际上呢
appear
就是
to
没有
be
一直没有傲慢的
animals,
这种
but
过失
the
这是这个
animals
出
who
生
are
道当中这
just
样的。
the
还有呢，
manifestation
就是
of
那个
bodhisattvas,
藏
they
文和
really
唐译
don't
当
have
中呢，
any
就是
of the
阿修罗
faults
阿修罗当中的话呢，
arrogance and
实际上呢
conceit.
就是这个也是这个现的一些傲慢啊，就是这样的。但实
Then
际上呢，他们也是没有就是这
In
方
the
面的这种
Tibetan
痛苦
version,
啊，
it
就没有
also
这方面的
has
这
a
个
part
烦
where
恼
it talks
这样
about
中
in
间
the
可能有一点就是一
Ashura
个
realm.
然后呢，就是第
In the
六个
Tibetan
是什么
version
呢？
and
就是恶鬼道
Sanskrit
恶
version
鬼道
also
的话
has
呢，就是
Ashura
有些
realm.
呢，就虽然就是专生于
This is a
先
little
行于恶
different
鬼道
than this
但实际上
particular
呢，就是它
text that
具
we're
有智
looking
慧
at.
和福德的这种
And then he
功
also
德
goes
啊，
among
就
the
是具有
hungry
智慧和
ghosts
福德的
replete
功
in
德。
merit.
我们那个地藏，
In the
地藏
Kshitigarbha
本愿经是
Sutra,
吧？就是应该是那个地藏本愿经里面就是有很多的贵王嘛，就是什么无度贵王
within
啊，
the
有些的是
Kshitigarbha
也
Sutra,
是
there are
什么
lots
那个
of king of hungry
四十
ghosts.
菩萨的这个
In
化
fact,
身
they
啊，
are
有
the
些什么这
manifestation
个
of Prabhavyuha
诸命贵王
Bodhisattva.
主什么命是那个神明的命，就是那么他呢就是也是什么其他的这个佛书记的，就是有一
And
些
some of
菩
the
萨吧，
king
就是
of
因为
hungry
有些
ghosts,
经
they
典和
are
佛号的话呢，就是
predicted
众生
by
有个
other
成道，
Buddhas
那
and
么这些众
Bodhisattvas
生都
to
慢
be
慢
the
慢
next
就是得解脱
Bodhisattva.
了。但有些
So,
贵王的话呢，就是
some
就像
of
我
the
们这个
some
阎
of
罗
the
王
king
一样
of
的，就是在
hungry
贵道当
ghosts,
中呢，就是
they
也是以
are
这种形象来
just the
利用的，包括
manifestations
我们
of
现在看到的有些
bodhisattvas.
护化身的
They
像啊，
appear
就
in
是
such
有
a
些
way
是
to
可能
only
夜
help
叉的像
the
啊，有些
sentient
是罗
beings.
刹的像啊，有些是就
When
看
we
起来
look
就是
at
他的
the
那个形
protectors,
象呢，并不是
some
那
of
么
the
的就是
protectors
我
they
们看起
appear
来并不
in
是
the shape
那
of
么的好看
yakshas
的，
or
但实际上呢，就是他
in
们以
some
这种
fierce
形象来
form.
利益众生的
But
啊，就是有些是贵道当
I
中的，
mean,
有
they
些
may
是贵圣当
not
中
look so
的，有
beautiful,
有
they may
些
not
是
appear to
不同
be
的
so
这种
pleasant
众
to
生嘛，
look at,
所
but
以
they
我们
appear
有
in
时
such
候
form to
真
only
的这个
benefit
佛在
sentient
哪里，菩
beings.
萨在哪里，就是也很难
It's
这
very
个
difficult
区分
to
的。
distinguish
表面上看呢，这
who
些都
is
是
the
心
Buddha
梵
and
不道的
Bodhisattva
啊，
and
就是心
where
梵
the
不道的，
Buddhas
但
and
实际上
Bodhisattvas
具有这些
reside.
功德。还有呢，
On
就是
one
信那个
hand,
色
they
色
may
色界
appear
和无色
to
界的
be
啊，就
exactly
是
like
信
the
那个
mundane
色界的
beings
话呢，就
and
是
trapped
这
in
个
samsara, but
这
in fact,
个
they are just manifestations of
十
bodhisattvas.
七个这四参当中的这个色界，
And then traverse the path of form and formless realms, the 17 forms and the 4 formless realms without considering himself superior. In fact, in the formless realms, the sentient beings may abide in the taste of meditation and they have lots of pride. But the bodhisattvas who manifest in such realms, they do not have the greed towards meditation, the taste of meditation, and they only appears in those realms to benefit sentient beings as well. So the 6 realms or sentient beings trapped in the sentient beings, mostly the mundane beings, they don't even have the opportunity to practice the Dharma of liberation, but the bodhisattvas, they are completely different. Yes, on the surface, they may appear to be someone in the gangster, in the gang. They would say that, and you may even view them as, oh, you guys are practicing the heterodox path and you're practicing the wrong path, but I myself am practicing the Buddha Dharma. I am having this Dharma book in my hand, and so on. But within your own mind stream, you have so much desire, anger, and ignorance. But the other one, who's appearing in a completely outrageous form, they have no desire and any of the three poisons. That's why towards any kind of beings in any kind of forms, we should have pure perception towards them, because you never know. Now he manifests acting out of desire, but transcends the defilements. First one, it talks about desire. The Bodhisattva may manifest as someone who has a lot of desire, maybe even more than the mundane beings. But such Bodhisattva is already devoid of any kind of defilements, already transcends any kind of defilements. In the mundane world, we usually have the what to take and what to abandon. And then after practice, you reach to a stage where you transcend such takes and repulse. Just as in Vajrayana, there's method of looking at the nature and recognize the nature of three poisons, even including the Sutrayana text. Just as stated in the sutra taught by Buddha and Nirgrantha, again it says, Bodhisattva abides in the purity of suchness always, yet they perform in skillful means for the benefit of beings. Though they manifest to conduct defile actions, in reality they are free from all desire and obscurations. It is I read a commentary of one sutra where it talks about lots of the Indian Buddhist stories. A monastic was begging for alms on the street. And then a woman started having lots of desire and affection towards that monastic, because he looks towards that monk, because the monk looks really handsome. And right away the woman started having lots of desire. And then she thought to herself that if I can be with him, I will aspire for bodhicitta. And then this monk, because this monk had the numinous power of knowing the other one's mind, so after reading her mind, he then get closer and closer to her, and after a while they were together. And then at that time, eventually through their time together, he started teaching her Dharma, and eventually at the time they were sitting together, she already attained fruition of liberation. And then Ananda saw them together, and Ananda was really upset, because as a bhikshu, he was not supposed to be that close with a woman. Therefore, Ananda went back to the Buddha and told Buddha the whole thing. And while they were talking, they saw this bhikkhu flying back towards the Buddha, and the Buddha pointed at him, saying that, "Oh, that's the bhikkhu who broke the vow, as you once said." So, if you actually still have very solid existence of desire and the three poisons, and started practicing in the same way how Vajrayana practitioners who are enlightened would practice, then you're creating lots of big mistakes, because you're not there yet. Therefore, it's better not to mix your immature practice and view with the higher practice and actions. Don't pretend Don't pretend that you're already realized. Don't pretend and then lie to others as to say, oh, in my realization, I have already attained the non-duality of purity and filth. If that's not true, don't do that. And then the second one, it says, manifest acting out of anger at sentient beings, but is without aversion. The bodhisattvas may manifest in any of those forms to tame the sentient beings. Maybe on the face of it, the bodhisattvas may appear to be wrathful, to be really angry, and have lots of aggression, but they're just really using such a wrathful way, such a really rude and fierce way even to help sentient beings. Just as stated in Words of My Perfect Teacher, there's a story where it says Songtsang Gampo, at the beginning of assuming his reign in the country, he killed many people with his army. Lots of people were invading from the Uyghur version and Uyghur region to Tibet, and then he formed his army and then killed many people over there. But at the end, where it is stated that in fact Songtsang Gampo didn't kill one person at all, the army that's from the enemy and his own army are all his manifestations. So that's a bodhisattva's action. But if you still have anger, if you still have lots of aggression, but say that I'm only appearing to be wrathful, but in fact I don't have any wrath, I don't have any anger. Don't pretend. That's my point. Recently, I've received lots of little notes from others complaining how their supervisors are very angry to them, and they're not really happy about it. In fact, I think it is the best to be very nice and compassionate towards people who are working together. Otherwise, for those of you who still have this intrinsic anger inside of you, and then you're wrathful and angry at others, it is not a bodhisattva's action. At the end, you may end up as you holding a knife and the other holding a dagger and start fighting with each other. So next one. Acting out of stupidity, but uses wisdom to control his mind. Stupidity, someone who doesn't know a thing about anything, but he would acting out of stupidity, but he has lots of wisdom and control his mind. Some people may appear to be stupid or looks rather slow. As Lao Tzu said, a wise man looks stupid, and a great skillful man appears to be clumsy. Maybe on the surface they seem to be very slow and stupid, but in fact they have lots of wisdom and they have lots of wit. Some people, they don't really show, they just don't really show that they're smart in front of others. This is also another characteristic of bodhisattvas. As mundane beings, we should let go or give up the three poisons. But for bodhisattvas, the three poisons that they manifest could benefit and tame sentient beings. And their three poisons won't cover up their beneficial activities. Okay, so the previous ones, we've already talked about about how bodhisattvas rely upon the six realms and then use the roots. And now it talks about how to practice the 6 paramitas. So the first one is generosity. And this verse where he talks about the manifest acting out of lust, but forsake both internal and external, and does not begrudge his own life. So begrudge really reminded me this story from Balzac, the story of Granddad. Before his death, he was looking at this flame from a candle, was still grasping onto why the candle's burning down. Just as there are really wealthy students who wouldn't even spend a penny on buying dinner and contributed to the dinner bill and so on. So maybe on the surface, this person it appears to be begrudge over everything, but in fact, he doesn't even begrudge over his own life. Second one is manifest the practice of moral infractions, but peacefully reside in the pure precepts, even onto harboring great fear about even minor transgressions. Some may appear to have already broken the vows, the Timoksha vows and Bodhisattva vows and so on, but in fact, they have not even broke any vows at all. And in the Tao's version as well as the Tibetan version, it says that they also practice the difficult actions, and they and the dutas, even though they appear that they have broken their vows. In fact, not only they don't break their vows, they protect their vows and really take care of their vows. They would practice the 12 duta actions and surpass the others completely. So this is the precepts. And they manifest acting out of anger, but is always sympathetically forbearant. Some people may appear to have really terrible relationships with others, lots of quarrels, lots of fightings. Some people, they appear to like fighting, but maybe they were Asuras before in their previous lives. So they really enjoy fighting. I used to like fighting when I was little, but honestly, now I don't anymore. Don't say that I manifested this anger when I was little. I actually had those anger. But now, because of Mahayana Buddhism, I no longer have such anger. So the bodhisattvas, they may be acting out of anger, but they're always in the state of forbearance. So we can really tell there are people who have such big tempers, and maybe they are always staying in the nature of forbearance, in the paramita forbearance. Some people may have terrible anger where all of our some of the management teams over here would like to send them away from Larangar, but I think you should at least tell me beforehand. Just as Atisha, he just as Shantideva, when he was in the monastery, he was not really appearing as a good student, but he was Shantideva, the Bodhisattva. So at least, therefore, I hope you could ask me for my permission or talk about whether if you should expel someone from here. I think people here are quite familiar with the revenge, with jealousy, with the hatred, and then they'll use Buddhism as a weapon to conduct all of those actions. So I see sometimes there's a split within a community, within different sanghas, where they would split into partisanships, and they would have different fights and different ideas and views, and then they would try to they would try to defeat each other. But when we really look at it, even mundane beings in the worldly communities, they don't even do that. Why do Buddhists have such angers? Maybe those people who have such great angers are bodhisattvas. Otherwise, how could you accept such facts? But maybe they're not, because at least bodhisattvas will try to seize such opportunity to benefit beings, and you should really look at what is going on in your mind stream. And then manifest acting out of laziness, yet diligently, vigorously cultivate merits. As Shantideva, who just as Shantideva, when he was in the monastery, he was sleeping all the time, he was eating, and all the other monks really didn't like him and thinks that he's too lazy. So maybe some of our Sangha members who really enjoy sleeping are bodhisattvas as well, just as when some of the Dharma masters Dharma teachers in the class, they would see this student is late again, and this student is falling asleep in class again. So maybe they're bodhisattvas. They may be already traveled to a different Pure Land, and they're having a trip over there. So you never know. Manifest acting out of a disturbed mind. They may manifest as someone who have lots of dualistic thoughts, but in fact, they are always mindfully concentrated and abiding in the meditative state. There are people who say that I'm so upset, I have lots of dualistic thoughts, but they're just saying that they may be bodhisattvas. And then manifest acting out of stupidity. They may seem to be really stupid, but penetrate both mundane and transmundane wisdom, supermundane wisdom. So this part it talks about the 6 paramitas. And then the next part talks about he manifests the practicing of flattery and deception. They may pretend. The flattery over here, it talks about a pretense. Pretend that they are certain ways, or create deception for more benefits. Some of their actions may seem to be the kind of action that conceits, and they practice sophistry. But those kind of actions maybe are done out of profound secretive meanings to benefit sentient beings. This is very difficult to grasp and difficult to understand, and some may manifest acting out of arrogance. Maybe they're quite arrogant about their fame, about their wealth. They may appear to have such arrogance, but in fact, what they did is just like a bridge or steps or a platform or a ground, a place where people would step onto and cross over. Just as someone, people may appear to have lots of arrogance. They won't even say hi and nod their heads when they see others, but maybe they're bodhisattvas, where they use such arrogance to benefit sentient beings.
然后就是实现呢，就是这个一切这个烦恼，
acting out of afflictions,
实现种种的这个烦恼，但实际上呢，就是心有常常的
the mind actually is always pure, is always to helping and benefiting sentient beings.
实际上还是一种这个清净的现象吧，就是也是就是我们学记论当中也是讲过嘛，就是学记论讲说会先做淫女，引主好色者，就是有些淫女啊、妓女啊之类的话，其实他们是不划成有些好色者。
Says that he may manifest himself as a prostitute, enticing those who enjoy sensuality, and then first enticing them with desire, but later causing them to enter the wisdom of the Buddha. So at the beginning, they may appear to be the ones who have desire and who have anger, but their manifestation is to benefit sentient beings.
那么就是这个就是然后还有后面呢，就是虽然就是先贤呢，
although they manifest being Amara, being the retinues of Amara, even becoming a demon, and they may appear to be there to harm the sentient beings, but this is really just an action. Yet accords with the wisdom of the Buddha all the time and follows no other teachings. As Manjushri also appears sometimes to practice the heterodox path and follows no other teaching. Although they appears or manifest to be in the form of Amara or practicing the path of Mara, but in fact they follow no other teachings than Buddha. Majority of Maras and demons, they are all bodhisattvas in our world. So maybe on the surface they look like a demon, but they are just a manifestation of bodhisattvas to benefit beings. So until this part, it talks about how bodhisattvas use mundane beings of form to benefit sentient beings. It may appear to be the kind of way to a kind of a way to disturb others, but they are to benefit the sentient beings. And then the next two talks about how to practice. They may appear to be practicing the two other vehicles, but they're practicing the Mahayana vehicle. So manifested becoming a Shravaka. In fact, Shravakayana is also really meaningful. How do they benefit sentient beings that way? Because Shravakas, they need to benefit, they need to know the Dharma through listening and contemplating the Dharma. Therefore, for people who never really studied the Four Noble Truths and so on, the Shravakas, through their appearance, through their manifestation, would benefit sentient beings. In the teaching of entering to Mahayana, I think over there it talks about Rahura. also, as well as Nanda, are all bodhisattvas. In Lotus Sutra, where it says that the 500 Shravakas and the disciples, maybe they appear to be Shravakas, but in fact they are just manifestations of bodhisattvas. Therefore, Shravakas, they may appear to be the Shravaka disciples, but they are bodhisattvas indeed. So what they did was to follow the actions and appearance of Shravakas, but they benefit sentient beings no other. In fact, exactly the same as a bodhisattva. So what I'm trying to say is that through studying the Dharma, you should try to explore different aspects of the Dharma, different teachings of the Dharma, because you can use all different ways to benefit sentient beings. Maybe you can study the Shravakayana to benefit beings, and sometimes maybe you're in different parts of the world, you can play the role of what that local area adapts to benefit sentient beings. At first, you maybe appear or play the role of someone in Africa, in Latin America, so that you can benefit sentient beings. And don't just try to say that you're a Tibetan Buddhist, therefore you have to wear this yellow and red robe to benefit beings. You can adapt different robes. So many people are, yes, you're studying the Tibetan Buddhism, but if you want to benefit beings in the mainland, therefore you may have to, or it might be good that if you could wear the mainland Buddhist robes, the gray robes. And if you were to benefit beings in Theravada areas, then you could then go to wear their orange-colored robes. And similarly, vice versa, for people who study different traditions, if you want to benefit beings in Tibetan Buddhism regions, you can wear the Tibetan robes, but the Tibetan robes are actually difficult to wear. It has lots of professional knowledge within. If a genuine Tibetan Buddhist sees you wearing this robe, it may appear that you don't really know how to wear it. And then they also appear as Pratika Buddhas, yet accomplishing greater compassion to teach sentient beings. We usually see Pratika Buddhas, they are the ones who would enlighten, care about their own liberation, therefore they don't have compassion towards others. I think in the biography of Manjushri, it says that in 36 billion lifetimes, Manjushri appeared as a Pratika Buddha to benefit sentient beings. And then people asked Manjushri, said that, why do you appear as a Pratika Buddha to benefit sentient beings? So Manjushri said that because in all those lifetimes, people only recognize Pratika Buddhas and not any other. Therefore, I had to appear in such a way to benefit sentient beings. Therefore, I think next time, if I were to go to Theravada teaching places, I think I would wear orange robe. I once tried on my own the orange robe. It seems to be really simple. I tried it on my own and didn't really show everyone else because I didn't want people to take a photo of me wearing those robes and create lots of unnecessary debates. But I think it's quite important that the bodhisattvas could appear in any way in accord with the local tradition, in accord with people's mind. Don't try to just grasp onto your robe and say that I'm a Tibetan Buddhist, I'm a Tibetan Buddhist, therefore I have to wear this. If you are not flexible to benefit sentient beings, how can you, if you're not flexible, how can you benefit sentient beings? Of course, we're not the kind of bodhisattva who have eradicated the two emptiness, but at least what we could do is, as monastics, as lay practitioners, without breaking our principles, our bottom lines, we should try to be in accord with other beings to help them. So maybe we'll stop today over here.